Gravett having a good lead there in Class A. Frank Sittner leading the 2-litre class. So in the overall position, Rob Gravett with 103 points, ahead of Frank Sittner on 87 points, with Andy Rouse just 1 point behind Sittner. That's in the overall position. Steve Ryder now takes up the story.
Round 7 of the SO British Touring Car Championship, and at Brands Hatch, the second 1-hour 2-driver race of the season. Rob Gravett heading the qualifiers. He's on a run of 4 consecutive race wins, and he'll be partnered by his Trackstar teammate Mike Smith. Gravett has launched himself into the championship lead, and in the 2-litre class, John Cleland is the quickest. Pagan Anderson and Netton Lindgren alongside him, surprising the works BMWs behind. The BMW Junior team there in force to give support to the championship challenge of Frank Sittner, who was lying 16 points behind Gravett. All cars would be required to make their compulsory stops to change drivers between 20 and 40 minutes, and some interesting combinations. Gravett and Smith, Rouse with the Brands Hatch expert Gary Ailes, Tim Harvey with Slim Borgood, whose experience covers Formula One and truck racing. Dave Brodie is back in the championship to partner Graham Good, Sean Walker and Ian Flux, Cleland with the other Vauxhall Works driver Chris Hodgetts. And to show the competitiveness of the 2-litre class, 1 second covered 11 cars there. So all set for a different kind of test for this highly motivated field. Murray Walker, the commentator.
60 minutes around Brands Hatch with a driver change is going to be tough. And it's Andy Rouse from pole position, first into Paddock Bend. Rob Gravett behind him. Sean Walker is third, and it's Slim Borgood in 4th position, and we're with Slim Borgood now, going up Harewood Hill into Druids. Sean Walker on the right, Rob Gravett in the White Sierra, and Andy Rouse is leading out of Druids. So it's Rouse, Gravett, Walker. We're with Slim Borgood, ex-Formula One driver, ex-drummer for ABBA, and he's good. So there they go, Rouse, Gravett, Walker, Borgood, Graham Good and Lawrence Bristow. That's the first 6 into Clearways and out of it. Graham Good, number 15 in the Black Sierra. That's Graham Hathaway and John Cleland leading the 2-litre class. Over the line, Rouse, Gravett. And the rest of them streaming through, and look for the 2 litres, and there they go. Now, up to Druids. Andy Rouse and Rob Gravett have pulled away a bit from Sean Walker. Slim Borgood right behind him. There's cement dust on the apex. In car with Rob Gravett. Andy Rouse, race leader ahead. Now, Rob Gravett has been very much on top this year. He's beaten superstar Andy Rouse ahead 4 times out of 6. Into Surtees again. On to Clearways, the 2 race leaders with Rob Gravett. Out of Clearways, 3rd gear, 100 miles an hour, change up into 4th, and 120 miles an hour. Down the Jack Brabham straight and out of Clearways, Sittner is taking Hodgetts. So the BMW goes past the Vauxhall, Mark Hales goes through too in the Mitsubishi, Jeff Allam is there. And over the line go the 2 litres, and it's a colossal scrap for them. But up front, the leaders are still at it. There's Andy Rouse, Rob Gravett, with Gravett again. Now, watch Andy Rouse in front. There he is. Ford Sierra Cosworth and Gravett too. They're the 2 litres. Cleland's gone through. Now, look back. That's Netton Lindgren, the Swedish woman driver in the BMW, challenging Frank Sittner. And he is the overall British champion of 1988. There he is. Frank Sittner on the right. Netton Lindgren from Sweden. Just behind him in the Black Sierra. And touring is Lawrence Bristow. Lawrence Bristow in the Blue Sierra is in trouble as the 2 litres go through and complete another lap. Now, we're with Netton Lindgren, and she is a superb 3rd in class. She looks in the mirror, but there are 5 cars right behind her. And there they are. Chris Hodgetts, David Leslie, Jeff Allam, 3 of them. And Nick Whale, number 66, goes through and takes John Clark on the apex at Druids. Now, Surtees. John Cleland leads the class. Sittner, Netton Lindgren, then Hodgetts and David Leslie. And Hodgetts gets a wheel up on the curb, dives through on the inside, takes Netton Lindgren up into 3rd position in the class. And now David Leslie's challenging in the black BMW. Watch the 2nd black BMW. That's behind Chris Hodgetts. And David Leslie chooses his moment, pulls out across the line, dives through on the inside of paddock, goes up into 4th position in the class, past Netton Lindgren, and Jeff Allam closes up with the Swedish girl. Going up Harewood Hill, into Druids, Allam is challenging, Allam goes through, Netton Lindgren runs wide, and lets Jeff Allam go through, and Lawrence Bristow comes into the pits. Now, he was 4th in the championship, but it looks as though he's not going to score any points at Brands Hatch today. Some kind of an engine problem. And that's John Clark. Off goes John Clark. Spins right off at Surtees. He was doing 90 miles an hour when he lost it. He's perfectly okay. And so is Lawrence Bristow. Yeah, just one of those things, he says. A sad retirement for Lawrence Bristow. But at Druids, the 2 litres. Look, there's Sittner and he's catching John Cleland. David Leslie is up into 3rd position. Hodgetts, number 70, is down to 4th. Jeff Allam is challenging him. Tim Sugden is right behind. And Netton Lindgren is in 7th place. The 2 litre leaders. Cleland, here he is. Sittner having a look to see if he can get through. He can't. There's quite a gap between Sittner and the 3rd place man in the 2 litre class as the leaders go round Clearways. There's Sittner, right on the boot lid of Cleland's Vauxhall, and there are the 2 leaders, still hammer and tongs. Andy Rouse leading, Rob Gravitt in 2nd position. Now they're lining up for the Jack Brabham Straight, up into top gear, building up to 145 miles an hour. And that's it. And behind, it's just the same with the 2 litres. Cleland, number 50, leading. Sittner, number 55. David Leslie is closing up. So it's Vauxhall leading, BMW 2nd. There's the Vauxhall, BMW in 3rd position in the 2 litre class. In car with John Cleland. Coming up to the Jack Brabham Straight. He's leading the 2 litre class. No, he's not, because there's Frank Sittner going through. Cleland fights back. Sittner's got the inside line at paddock. Sittner takes the lead in the 2 litre class in the BMW, and he takes 7th place overall up Harewood Hill into Druids Hill Bend, but Sittner is still in front. Cleland has to tuck in behind the BMW, and now it's a 3-car race, because look, there is Sittner, there is Cleland, and there behind them is that fine Scottish driver David Leslie. Now we're with Rob Gravitt, 2nd overall. Andy Rouse is leading. Rob Gravitt goes through. Rob Gravitt is leading. He's done it at Druids. Goes straight past Andy Rouse and takes the lead in the Trackstar Sierra down to Graham Hill Bend. In the largely unsponsored Trackstar car, and he's racing against the Andy Rouse Engineering Ford Sierra Cosworth. There is Andy. The leaders, and it's a new leader, number 11, Rob Gravitt, 4 times a winner already this year. Down come the 2 litres. Sittner leading, Cleland 2nd, Leslie right behind him. Tim Sugden is up into 4th position in the class now. We're in car with Cleland. That's Frank Sittner ahead. Front-wheel drive Vauxhall Cavalier versus rear-wheel drive BMW M3 into Druids. And the 2 litres are really close, just like Silverstone. And this is a demonstration of the fact that the RAC's new formula really works. David Leslie having a look at John Cleland for 2nd place in the class. Cleland closes the door. Tim Sugden right up behind the Scotsman. Jeff Allam is right behind Sugden. And Chris Hodgetts is in 6th position in the class. Over the line again. And Leslie is attacking Cleland again. And that in the white Sierra, believe it or not, is Rob Gravitt. He is lapping the 2 litre drivers. And these are the leaders in the class. Up to Druids. Sittner, Cleland, Leslie. Then number 11, Rob Gravitt, leader overall. And he's right up with the 3rd position man in the 2 litre class. That is how quickly Rob Gravitt is driving. But where is Andy Rouse? He was right with Rob Gravitt. There is no sign of him. Gravitt has pulled right away from Andy Rouse. He's making the race his own. And so, there goes Cleland, there goes Leslie. And this is power. Rob Gravitt past Cleland. Now he's up to John Clark, past him. Now past Frank Sittner at 145 miles an hour into paddock. That's 550 horsepower versus 300. Out of paddock at over 100 miles an hour. Up to Druids, and there's the answer. Andy Rouse coming into the pits. Now, this is something you do not expect to see. And it sounds very rough, the Ford Sierra Cosworth. Up comes the engine cover. Andy Rouse having a talk over the radio while they're filling the header tank. Maybe it's overheating. Obviously, there's some water missing. Andy Rouse rejoins the race, but he is right down in 12th position. And the 2 litres, Sittner and Cleland leading. Now, looking back from Sittner's leading car, and that's Cleland's Vauxhall falling back a bit. And behind him is David Leslie's BMW. Here they come. So it's Sittner, Cleland, Leslie, Sugden. Jeff Allam is still there. Going round Surtees. First, second, third, fourth, fifth in the 2 litre class into Clearways. And that's John Cleland locking up, the right front locking up as he comes out of Clearways and down the straight. Something's amiss, something's wrong, because past goes Tim Sugden, past goes Jeff Allam. John Cleland is in trouble, he's out of the race. And that is Chris Hodgetts handing over to Bob Berridge in the other Vauxhall Cavalier. Getting the safety belts right. Absolutely vital. Pull them up tight. Shut the door. Berridge drives out. Now, Chris Hodgetts was due to take over from John Cleland. He's obviously heard he's out. He shakes his head. He's very unhappy. And there's the reason. John Cleland touring in. And that's Andy Rouse going past him. 12th position. And Leslie is up into the lead in the 2 litre class, past Frank Sittner, with Tim Sugden right up with Sittner. Allam right up with Sugden, looking back from Sittner's car. There is Sugden, right behind him is Allam, and into the pits comes John Cleland. He's pointing at the left front of the car. Chris Hodgetts has a talk with him. And Slim Borgard has been in and handed over to Tim Harvey. They've taken on new tyres. Rob Gravitt is leading, Sean Walker is second, Graham Good is third, Tim Harvey, number 3 there in the Blue Sierra, is in 4th position. And there are Cleland's mechanics looking for the problem.
But Frank's so slow through some of the corners, it's unbelievable. I mean, through the fast corners, it's ridiculous.
And there is Frank Sittner's BMW, and Frank said the Vauxhalls were slow at Silverstone. Well, it's Kurt Luby driving now, and Frank has a quiet think about things. His stint is over. Yes, second, but will he stay there? And Andy Rouse is charging the third of these cars. He's up with Ian Flux and Dave Brodie. There he is, taking Dave Brodie, who has taken over from Graham Good. So Andy Rouse unlaps himself there. He's a lap behind, don't forget, after his pit stop. Now coming up to Ian Flux, who's taken over from Sean Walker. But Andy is effectively out of the race. There is no way he's going to gain a whole lap on Rob Gravitt. So there is Ian Flux, still a whole lap ahead of Andy Rouse, but not for much longer, I suspect. Andy starting to close on the Ford Sierra Cosworth in front of him. Ian Flux comes out of Clearways into the Jack Brabham Straight to complete another lap. And Rob Gravitt there is very much in control. The top team of 1990 in the top class. And Kelvin Burt joins. He's taken over from Tim Sugden. Out of the pit lane. Number 56. And he is taken by his teammate, Kurt Luby. Looking back from Luby's car, which was Frank Sittner's. Nearly 300 horsepower, each of them. And they're both well up in the 2 litre class. Andy Rouse back into the pits and out of the car. Now it's bad enough for Andy, but his co-driver Gary Ailes interrupted his honeymoon for this, and he hasn't even got in the car. But there's TV star Mike Smith waiting to take over from race leader Rob Gravitt. Gravitt going through, starting another lap, so Mike is in plenty of time. Rob round paddock. He's getting ready to come in. He's disconnected his radio lead to the helmet. Out of Druids, down to Graham Hill Bend. He's got a very good lead, Rob Gravitt. He can afford to take it easy and make sure of a good handover to Mike Smith. Loosening his shoulder straps, all very calm and deliberate. Out of Surtees, into clearways. Slowing down, ready to go into the pit lane. And he's into the pit lane. He's in it now, looking for his mechanics. There are the track star men. Now, watch this handover. Door open. Gravitt out. The mechanics have got the shoulder straps held for Mike Smith. That's a good move. Mike Smith in. They are not changing the tyres, I noticed. That saves time. 12 seconds was all it took for Gravitt to get out, Mike Smith to get in. Mike does up his shoulder straps before he even leaves the pit lane. Onto the track. And Rob Gravitt, job well done. Helmet off. Is this going to be his 5th consecutive win? And Dave Brodie in the Black Sierra is in trouble. He's passed by Jeff Allen. And there is Flux. Ian Flux goes through in the Ford Sierra Cosworth. Passes Dave Brodie. So Flux has gone up a place, and a worried Graham Good, that's Dave Brodie's co-driver, goes over to the pit wall, and Tim Harvey is in 2nd place. He was 2nd in Thruxton, he was 3rd at Alton Park, he was 3rd at Silverstone. It looks as though he is on course for 2nd place today. He's using a new tyre construction, and it certainly seems to be paying off, and he is pushing, watched by his teammate Lawrence Bristow. So Harvey round paddock, up Hailwood Hill again, past the BMW. He hasn't got very far to go now. There is the stricken Dave Brodie ahead of him. Tim Harvey goes through. And there is Ian Flux, Sean Walker's co-driver, crossing the line. His race is almost completed too. Into paddock again, and there's a spin. And it's Per Gun Andersson, the Swedish driver, in front of Bob Berridge. And I notice he's not letting Berridge get out onto the track before him. Bob Berridge in the Vauxhall. So it's a bad day for Vauxhall. Cleland is out. Berridge badly balked. And there's Cleland talking over his problems with a contemplative Chris Hodgetts there as well. Out goes the pit board, Sarah Green, Mike Smith's wife, with the stopwatch, and Mike Smith on his way for his first victory in 1990 after a thoroughly grotty year in which his Trackstar team lost its sponsorship. But it's proved its worth with 4 wins out of 6 already. And it's looking good for Tim Harvey, number 3. Look at the way he's lapping those men. He is in 2nd place in his Blue Sierra. He's well on his way now. Laps Anderson and Jimmy McRae. Up to Druids. And Mike Smith laps Graham Scarborough in the Mitsubishi. Oh dear, shaking the fist. He's not at all happy. Up to Tony Bridge now. Into paddock. That's the BMW in front of him. Mike Smith's got to get past that one. Oh, dear me, get out of the way, says Mike Smith. Bridge has done so. Scarborough's gone through as well. And Rob Gravitt checking. Maybe he remembers Donington when his co-driver Stig Blomqvist spun away the lead at the end. But not this time. Mike Smith keeps it on the island to make it win number 5 in 1990 for Trackstar. 2nd, Tim Harvey and Slim Borgood. 3rd, Sean Walker and Ian Flux. And Mike Smith wins. Kelvin Burt, there he is, finishes 5th overall. Kurt Luby wins the class with Frank Sittner and finishes a fine 4th overall.
No stopping the Trackstar team these days. 5 victories in a row. The Yokohama tyres, the envy of the rest of the field. And Mike Smith was a happy man.
I mean, everybody else's tyres would drop into bits except ours. Like, there was lumps coming off everybody's tyres. And it just all held together. I love it. 5 in a row.
But after the celebrations for Gravett, Smith and Sittner, the consternation of their cars being disqualified for running oversized fuel tanks. 5 days later, the disqualification was overturned. Gravett